What's happening, legends? All right, guys, we've got an extremely special guest today by the name of Fa Manu, also known as Nu Brown. He is an NRL player. He's just under 100 games plus a couple years overseas, but you're going to hear all about that very shortly. Plus, we're going to go through an in-depth conversation about Nu's upbringing, which I'm sure many of you wouldn't know, and you'll be very surprised if you know Nu because of what a special human he's been. My brother, Nu Brown, how are you, bro?
Good, bro. Thanks for having me. This is my first time doing a podcast, so quite nervous.
I can't believe this is your first one.
Yeah, bro. I've always been not quite skeptical, but I guess protective of my story to different to different media platforms, just to make sure that I protect myself, and because a lot of people can create and mix different stories about yourself. So.
And I get that, right? And why I mentioned at the start that we're going to go into your upbringing is because I read your brother's book. I remember the first time I met Nu, and we were sitting at Tamping Ground, and we just finished. Did we train together that morning, or we just went and hung out? We just went and met. I remember we met up because you just came back from overseas, and you were playing with Tommy at Norse. And the conversations I was having with you, and I'm a very confident and comfortable person, but there was times where you were making me uncomfortable in that because you asked such direct questions. But I loved it because there was no shit talk, there was no small talk, there was no bullshit. It was just straight down the line, and they were just genuine questions. And I wondered where that came from. And you said to me, my brother actually wrote a book about my upbringing. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I'll go read it. And you're like, were you really? And I was like, yeah. What's it called? And you go, She's Not Your Rehab. I'm like, oh, all right, I'll go read it. And I remember I was going away that week. I went and bought it, and I read it, and I've never been so rocked by a book in my whole life. There was times in that book where I had to literally put it down, take a breath, and walk away. And that was your upbringing, bro. So, very vague question, but give us a story about your upbringing.
Yeah, bro. So, obviously with that conversation at the cafe when I first met you, I'm a pretty straight up guy. For me, I wear my heart on my sleeve, and that's just the way we grew up. We grew up with a lot of confrontation. We grew up, me and my brothers, we grew up with, honest answers, honest questions. So for me, my upbringing, I grew up in New Zealand, grew up in Christchurch. I've got 4 brothers, 4 sisters. I'm the baby of the family.
The favourite, I reckon, too.
Yeah. And I'm born in New Zealand. Both my parents came from Samoa to have a better life for obviously us kids in their future. I grew up in a 3-bedroom state house. And so if you could picture three bedrooms, all 5 of us brothers were in one room, the girls in the other, and my parents in the other. And so obviously as we grew up, my brothers and sisters got older, some of us had to move out into the garage and make that a room. So bro, definitely humble beginnings. Life was very different then, but also I wouldn't change it for the world. So
such a big family, bro. And going through the book and reading some of the things that your brothers and sisters had to put up with, how's that shaped the man that you've become today?
Yeah, massively, bro. Obviously, a lot of people that don't know my story, or people that have heard it, I grew up in a tough childhood. I grew up with an alcoholic father. Still to this day he is, and I still love him no matter what. He's still my dad at the end of the day, but also a violent dad. And then I grew up with a mum that hustled her way. She worked 3-4 jobs in the week, just to try to get through and obviously try to provide for us. But she didn't have much, and so she would try and, story short, she would try and hustle and be at the pokies 24 hours of the night. Just to try and hit the jackpot to see, for us to have a better living. And so, bro, I grew up in that kind of household, and obviously with my brothers, and with my brothers, seeing that before I did, I was quite lucky that I got to see that sort of the nicer end part of, I guess, our childhood, but they definitely got it worse, and so I've had to learn from sort of their mistakes and their experience as well.
What was if I go too far, I know you tell me as well. What was the abuse like growing up in your household?
Yeah, bro. So it was just that. I was just gonna say it's the normal, but it isn't the normal. So for me back home, my normal back then was like, it was like to the point where my dad would obviously, ground and pound my mother, and so for us kids rocking up from school and seeing that, it was like, oh, okay, mom's getting a hiding. It was just like the normal, and like I look back then, I was like 5. Some of the shit that I did see was pretty fucked up. But back then, like I said before, it was quite normal, and so it was the ongoing abuse that I guess, I guess it was tough to see a lady get treated like that, and obviously being married now, I've learnt, obviously I've definitely learnt how to respect a lady and her body, but to see my mum go through what she had to go through was definitely tough for any child to see. But that was the normal, bro. Every day. Don't get me wrong, my dad he was a hard worker, and that's one thing that I've always learnt and loved about him is his work ethic. I can't fault him on his work ethic. But at the time, bro, like after nights at work or after a hard day at work, he would just take out his frustration, I guess, on either us kids or mum. And so
I'm going to reference your brother's book.
We can go deeper if you want, bro, but yeah.
I will. I'm going to touch on a couple of things that are like I remember from the book. But I remember you once saying to me, "No," when I think I messaged or called you when I was reading it, and you were like, "Have you all watched the movie Once Were Warriors?" I'm like, "Yeah, bro, it's hectic. Like it's a heavy movie." And you're like, "That was like kids play compared to our upbringing." And as I read through like further and further, there's parts in it that were like traumatizing for me. And there was one where Matt, your brother, talks about a story where your mum and dad had an argument, and your mum's like, "All right, I'm going, I'm out." And she walks out. There's like a bus stop out the front, and he walks out and just clean knocks her out, grabs her by the hair and drags her back in. Those moments, like seeing those things, how did you cope with that as a kid?
I guess the only way that, for me, I can only talk on my experience as a kid, seeing those, like, the only way to deal with it was to sort of shut up and not say anything or not show emotion. Because if we did back then, we would probably be getting the hidings. That's my brother's experience, and like I think I was like 6 or 5. I remember being in the room with my brothers, and I remember my mum screaming out saying "boys," and we're like, "What the hell? Well, is that mum?" And it was an outside noise, and so we opened the window, and she's pretty much tied up on the road, bro. And literally, my dad would run over her legs, and crazy, like so blessed that like she's walking, but like for me then, I was like, "What the F is happening?" But that was just the norms of our life, And so to see that, bro, that was, yeah, I guess I was traumatized, and where for me it was hard to, I guess, express my feelings and express how I wanted to be in front of people, if that makes sense. But you know what? In saying that, my mum, man, she's a proper soldier. Like, even though she's not here, but the things that I learned and how to, deal with confrontation and deal to express who I am, it all comes from her, and I think it all comes from the topics, the scenarios, the situations that we were in when mum used to get beaten up. It was like every day it felt like it was her last day, that kind of conversation. Frank, you got me.
Yeah, bro, you're getting at me.
And like, I guess for me, like, having those uncomfortable conversations with my mum at the time, you know, she's like, oh, for me, like when she would say to me, you know, son, like I love you, and she has to be so, she has to be so honest, because she didn't know if it was her last breath, if Dad would take her life. But and so for me now, what I've learned for myself is like, man, life is too short to, to not be vulnerable, and I find vulnerability is a big strength.
I agree. Obviously, you're showing how much you loved your mum.
Yeah.
And when we were at your wedding 3 weeks ago, fantastic wedding, by the way. Mate. Well done. Congratulations. And
Thanks.
Congratulations to Geordie as well.
Thanks to the MC. Chubb.
Well, I just did my best. Your brother, he made one of the most beautiful speeches I've ever heard. And what I loved was how he brought up your mum. And he went through each of your siblings and what your mum gave to them. And I can't remember all of them because you got a lot of siblings. But I'll never forget what he said about you. And he was obviously bang on, he's your brother. But he said, my mum, he gave Nu her heart. And that shines so brightly. Like I never knew your mum. But from that one sentence, I completely understand and can see your mum because of him saying that about you. It seems like I can only assume that a lot of you is from your mum.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's the best thing about why I'm so blessed to have my brothers. Like I'm so close with them. When you meet us, you can see mum living within us.
Yeah.
And that's just a testament to her story. And so every time my friends do speak to my brothers, they're like, man, and they know my mum, they're like, far out, you can actually see your mum still living within you. And that's massive for us.
Yeah.
That's a big thing.
Well, we're going to get deeper into your resilience later, but I just want to touch on it now. It's no surprise to me, like when we go through your career and how many times you got knocked down literally and got back up. It comes from your mum, bro. That resilience.
Yeah.
That willingness to just, no matter what, every day, get up and keep fighting. Like, how proud of you are you? Like, looking back on your career now and thinking of all the times when you could have given up, should have given up, but you didn't. And I can't help but think that's your mum.
Definitely, bro. Definitely from my mum's strength and obviously overcoming DV. But I guess just from where we come from, bro, like where we come from is rough. And so you're pretty much at rock bottom. And so the only way to go up is up. And so I know what it's like to not have anything. I know what it's like to not have nothing. And so for me, my thought process in life is always to not go back to where I was when I first started. And I guess that's why I came over to Aussie to pursue a career. But like you said, bro, with my career, my setbacks and my resilience to bounce back time and time, it's definitely from the situations that I've been in, but also the cards that I've been dealt with too.
It's one of the most inspirational stories I've ever heard, bro, because like we're just touching on the physical abuse that happened in your household as well. And then I remember reading in the book, there was times where like uncles or aunties would come over and your brothers would get molested as well.
Yeah, bro. Yep. So I was, it was crazy because when my brother wrote the book, I actually mentioned to him, I said, oh, bro, I remember the time my actual uncle did come over and sexually, what's the word, abuse or whatever, assaulted my brother. I was there. I was laying next to him, and I remember waking up and seeing that. And so for me, I had to shut up because I started beginning to hide, and it was so normal, bro, for us back then. Not that what happened, but I was like, oh, this must be the normal. This must happen to all other families, but it didn't.
The reason why your brother wrote the book and why it's been so powerful was because how many people it did happen to and how many families it did happen to. And in particular, it was talking about New Zealand. but everyone did
Happens
the same
everywhere.
thing. It's crazy. It's insane. Sorry to jump in, but I just want to touch on that point because that's why your brother's book's been so successful, is because so many people can relate to it as well.
Yeah, bro, and that's one thing about sharing a story, sharing your own stories, because there's so many people out there that can relate from it, and the more people that sit back and be quiet, because don't get me wrong, we've all been there, we've all been quiet about our own story because of, I don't know, whether it's too cool or ego or you're a bit shamed. But honestly, man, like I've learned over my life is that there's so many people out there that need to hear your own story, not just my story, but someone else's story. And you only need to find that one lost sheep to find its flock again. And that your story could be that.
Yeah.
Oh, shucks, that was powerful.
That was holy. So you go through your upbringing and you have abuse daily. You watch your brothers get molested, and you're only the only thing that you can do to kind of get away from that is sport, right?
Yeah.
And rugby league or rugby union growing up in New Zealand?
Rugby league first, bro, and then
Yes.
rugby union.
Really? It's normally the other way around in
Yeah.
New Zealand.
I guess for me, that was definitely my escape
Yeah.
from the bullshit.
What part of the sports did you really enjoy growing up and like getting away from, the things at home?
But like I look back now, and I said this to at my wedding, I had a couple of my childhood friends.
Yeah.
Steven and Tyrone, they're probably like my two besties back home, back in my childhood, and we're talking about it. I said, "Oh man, like," and it was funny that you're asking this question, because my escape, and I was telling them about it. My escape from the stuff, the trauma at home, was to be with their families, because their families were so. When you watch TV, when you watch a movie with just a happy family,
Yeah.
that's all I ever wanted. And I guess, don't get me wrong, I love my family. Like we are a happy family when things are going good. Don't get me wrong, but when I was young, bro, and seeing how messed up I was with my mum and dad, and then obviously my brothers making poor decisions along their life and their journey, my escape was to just go to my mate's house and be with them and treat them like it was my own. It was like an imaginary thing, bro, where I was like, okay, this is how I would love to have my family like, which is quite sad as a kid, because you want to know that you feel safe.
Yeah. One of the biggest things that I took away from the book is hurt people hurt people. Where do you think your brother got that from?
I guess his journey.
Yeah.
I feel bad that I'm talking about my dad like that, but it's literally from my dad.
Yeah.
But in saying that, like, I don't know what my dad went through back in his childhood days, and so his trauma that he's had ever since he was a kid is probably, like the pressure on his shoulders, and he just doesn't know how to cope with it and deal with it. So he feels like that's probably his way of dealing with it, whether it was the abuse, all that jazz. Man, God love my brother Matt. His other saying is, our trauma isn't our fault, but it's our responsibility to heal.
Yeah, bro.
And I think that's mean. Like that's hectic, because so many people, even myself at times back when I was growing up, it was like I used to always try to play the victim card. I used to always be like, man, I had it tough growing up. My dad used to beat up my mum. We had no clothes. I had to dive into clothing bins just to grab clothes. And so I used to play that kind of victim card and feel sorry for myself. But I was like, hang on a minute. The more I hang in that kind of pit, the more I dig myself in a deeper pit, the more it's going to be harder for me to get out. So for me, I was just like, man, I need to find a way to get out and own my story, own and heal from it, and be like, okay, this is who I am, this is what I've gone through, but man, now it's time to bounce it, to get out of it. And so,
man, see, there's nothing more in this world that I hate than the victim mentality. But if there's anyone that can use that victim mentality, it's you and your family, bro. So to hear you say that, like, it truly means that anyone, no matter how bad things have gotten, there is a way out. And the biggest part I take away from the whole book is what you just said then about, yeah, these things happen to you, the trauma happened to you, but it's up to you to now control the actions from here. And you can control the actions from here.
100.
So going through all of that, bro, you play sport. I'm assuming that you're getting, scouted from the different rugby league and rugby union schools and stuff like that growing up through New Zealand. Run us through that part of your life.
Yeah, bro. So obviously I moved here when I was 16, but at the time I was about 13, 14. I started to realize I was good, but I wasn't. But honestly, there were so many people in my city that were better than me. Like one of my best friends, Tyrone, and I always say it to people, he was the Sonny Bill of our town.
Of Christchurch?
Yeah. And so for me, bro, like, I guess where my childhood and my upbringing sort of helps me is that I just stuck in the grind, bro, for some reason. I wasn't the most talented, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong, I could play footy, but I knew I wasn't the best player,
And I get that.
And I'm not even trying to be humble, bro. I just know there were guys that were better than me. Break tackles, flair, no-look passes, I couldn't do any of that back in the day. So for me, bro, I just had to, work on my craft every day. And I'm so fortunate that, my brothers, even though they didn't go far in sport, especially my brother Angus, my second one, the second oldest one, he put a lot of time. He was like my father figure. He put a lot of time and effort into my trainings, into getting better, And so before he had 3 kids, I was pretty much his son. So like when him and my sister-in-law now, and we always talk about it, and I guess they got emotional about when I got married. It was like, my sister-in-law messaged me the other day and said, knew there was a time in our life that we wanted to adopt you as our own son.
Oh.
And I was like,
stop.
Yeah, I know, bro.
Oh, it just came good. Oh.
And so like, for instance, bro, me growing up playing footy, they were a big part of who I am and how I achieved the things that I've achieved.
Honestly, it's
and it's crazy to have your siblings talk like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's just how we spoke.
It's so unbelievable how like your siblings, you in particular, no disrespect to your family. I know you the best. So you come over. How old are you at this time?
16.
16, bro.
Moved on my own, bro. And I didn't even have that. It wasn't planned. You know what I mean?
Yeah, bro. And what about the culture shock too? Like you're
Massive.
coming from Christchurch, and from what you've told me, big gangster over there, bit of a ghetto. Cronulla, it's quite a nice area.
Definitely, bro. I remember driving here. I remember the welfare guy picked me up, took me along Cronulla, and I was just like, holy heck! And I'm looking at like 2-story houses and all that. And I remember saying this to the welfare guy.
2-story houses.
I remember saying this to the welfare guy. I was like, bro, this is like MTV Cribs, proper, Because, bro, like...
You would have been so fresh.
I was fresh.
Far out.
And so, yeah.
So you do well in SG ball in 20s. Sharks offer you a contract. So I remember back then when you were like... when you say you were around the 18 years old, there was a lot of talk about you, right? Coming through the grade and you were coming up through the halves. What was that period like?
Bro, I was very blessed. There's one of my best friends, he's still to this day. His name is Panani Manu.
Yeah.
He was at the Sharks before I came over here. And he was like, he was another halfback back home in Christchurch. And so he helped me pretty much come over here, bro. So Cronulla did like a scouting camp in Christchurch, and so my mate Panani, he was the captain of the 20s at the time. He put my name forward. For the scouters to go have a look at. So they obviously watched me. They brought me over, And then as I was playing, obviously the grade below him, I was playing 18s while he was playing 20s. And then I started to do really well, and then playing as a halfback. And then I got the call up that I was going to be playing 20s with my mate. And so being able to do that with my best friend, right, that was pretty cool, bro. But also I looked up to him because I've never seen another athlete that I knew from back home that would work so hard like him. And he was a freak, bro. So he played junior Kiwis and all that with some of the best NRL players still now. It got to a time, bro, where it was out of me and him playing NRL. And that was a tough conversation. That was a tough period, I guess, for myself and him. But also, the best thing about us is that we both came from nothing. And I remember them calling us up, and they said, it's out of you two. And I was like, far out. And I remember having this conversation with my mate, P. And I said to him, bro, like, no matter whatever happens, I still love you. And we're still going to be boys. And he goes, 100%. And like, it was so cool because when you come from nothing, you're just like, man, if you beat me, fair play to you.
Yeah.
You know, that for me, if he did beat me in that position, I'd be like, okay, well, that means that I need to work harder.
Yeah.
But I was lucky enough that I got the call up. My debut was against the Dragons. And that was pretty cool, bro.
Where was it? Cogra?
At Wynn Stadium.
Wynn.
And that was pretty cool because my idol growing up was Benji Marshall. And so that was cool, bro. That was a surreal feeling. But at the same time, bro, during my career, at that point, I definitely lost my identity of who I was. And I know we'll touch into that.
Yeah.
But for me, bro, I got really cocky back in those days. And the fame and all that got to me, you know. And there's two ways, and people would think, man, how do you go that way when you've come from nothing? But when you go from nothing to having it all, you just think it's just going to keep coming.
Yeah.
The money's going to keep coming, but then
only bigger contracts,
more fame, more girls, more alcohol, but no.
So you're going, you make your first grade debut. How long did you stay in first grade for, or was it in and out?
I finished off half the year, the back end of the year, and then leading into, that was 2014, and then 2015, I thought I was going to have a breakout year because I thought, man, I was starting week in, week out the year before, so now it's just trying to get my body right for preseason, and then by then we had the Auckland Nines that come through.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then I done my ACL at the Nines. An ACL injury takes about 8 to 12 months.
Yeah.
And then that put me up for a year, and then by that time they signed James Maloney.
So you're going through almost two different things, like your career, and then you've got your personal things. And there's no surprises that you're going through personal issues because of like the upbringing you have. And I'm assuming that a lot of the things that happened in your upbringing you haven't spoke about to anyone before.
No.
Run us through what's going on behind footy through those times, especially now that you're injured.
2-3 weeks before, with my mental stuff away from footy, I was proper homesick, bro. And I remember before I made my debut, I got into a thing with this girl, and me being an emotional guy that wears his heart on his sleeve, he got caught in love that he thought it was love.
So cute.
And I got my heart broken at the time, and at that time, bro, I was like, man, what am I doing here? And I was like, what am I doing in Australia? Like, I just want to go home. And so at that time, I was like, all my head was just focused about girls, not even trying to play footy, bro, at that time. And I remember calling my mum, and I was like, Mum, I want to come home because right now I'm not right mentally. And I remember making this phone call with her and my brother Angus. And I said, and they're like, why do you want to come home? And I said, I just can't handle this. I can't handle the pressure to, if I don't make it here, me as a kid, Pacific Islander kid, you want to make your parents proud. So then if you do fail, that's what you fear. You fear that you're going to fail and bring your family name down.
Yeah.
I remember calling them and I said, I feel like I'm going to take my own life away for some reason, bro, over a stupid girl, right? And I remember that time when I tried to take my own life away. And I was like, what was I thinking? Anyways, my mum calls me back and she goes, did you try to take your life? And she was crying. And she goes, I remember her saying, son, I don't, she goes, it's not about the money. She goes, I'd rather have my son than have didn't have the contract.
Mm.
And I was like, far out, you know, my mum loves me.
Mm.
I was like, okay, it's probably time to come home. But then my brother Angus was like, he goes, bro, you know, you've just left your family the last 2 years. The only time you get to come home is once a year in October for about 2 weeks, then you've got to go back to preseason. He goes, you've sacrificed 24 months out of your life to be away from your family, to pursue a career, and now you want to call it quits. So I had one that wants me to come home, the other one that wanted me to stay put. Anyways, I was thinking, I know my mum's thinking with her heart, but I know my brother's thinking with his head. So I listened to my brother. As 2 weeks later, bro, I'll make my debut. You know, I remember going to the club and I was about to sign my release papers, saying I'm going to leave. 2-3 weeks later, I play an RL.
It's a roller coaster in itself, and you only just started playing first grade. So you're going through that on the outside whilst trying to play football. Are you communicating any of this with any of your mates?
No.
That you play with?
No.
No one knows?
And I think that's the one thing that I guess rugby league, we've sort of got to try and break that sort of stigma, is to be able to have uncomfortable conversations in rugby league.
Yeah.
Because when you're, I don't know what it is, bro, but when you're in that environment and you're around a lot of men, and rugby league, you're all about playing tough and being tough. And so when people think be tough, play tough, they think, okay, that means I've got to shut my emotions out, shut what I feel. And so, bro, at the time, I didn't really get to share that with anyone. And when I did open those kind of conversations to friends, and I remember the people that I used to talk to, that were my teammates, I'd get laughed at. And so I was like, oh, well, that must be embarrassing.
Yeah, walls
so
up.
My walls would go straight on.
Yeah. So you get injured, ACL, up there with one of the worst injuries you can get.
Yeah.
What's your mental health like through that stage?
It was bad, bro. So I got to a point, I think, bro, I was on about 160K at 18, which is a lot of money, right?
Especially coming from nothing.
From nothing. And so because we get paid monthly, so when I used to get this coming in every month, I used to be like, man, this is coming in every month, so I'm just gonna spend it, But I know I didn't save, I just spent.
I love that. Oh, this is coming in, so I'm just gonna spend it.
Yeah, because I knew it was gonna come every month. But at the time, bro, during that injury, while I was on a good contract, I went through this phase where I just started drinking pretty much every week, bro, through my rehab. But obviously, as you guys know,
makes it worse.
Alcohol makes it worse, especially when you're trying to come back from, trying to repair muscles. And so, bro, every week I'll turn up to rehab either smelling like alcohol. And I wouldn't say I was an alcoholic, bro. I just didn't know how to deal with the situations because my emotions were shut. Yeah,
there's a form of escape. There's a way to get away from shut down and avoid the things that you're going through.
Yeah. So I went into the drinking and party phase. I was going out the night before, having to turn up for training, and obviously when you're playing at the most elite sport and you're in the top 1%, you can't do that. No. You get found out real quick. And then I got into a phase where I started gambling to a point, and my mum's, what would I say, the way she used to hustle and the way, she used to be at the pokies, I guess I had that bit of addiction from that. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Yeah, monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah. Yeah. And so for me, bro, that was the thrill.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't play footy, so my thrill to get higher was to try and win money.
So I can relate to that. Damn. You going through all that. I didn't know that about you as well. No, I didn't know the gambling part. So, brother, you've just had 5 surgeons tell you that the 3rd surgery on your foot will probably make you retire. Not probably will retire you. How did that feel?
Yeah, that was a very crazy moment, bro, in my life. I remember sitting in there with my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, and the trainer from the Bulldogs. And I remember him saying that to me, saying, you're probably not going to play NRL again, let alone run again. And I was like, far out. That was buzzy, bro. I remember me holding it all in because there was people around me. But then when I got into the car and it was just Geordie and I. I remember breaking down, and I remember just literally leaning on her shoulder, just crying, and like she was crying for me because she's seen me go through it all, and obviously her knowing my story too. I think that's what made it worse and more emotional. Sorry, and yeah, that was a tough time, bro. But at the same time, I knew, like I was saying before, when I'm a kind of person when someone tells me that kind of news or tells me, especially from a professional doctor, saying that you're gonna have to retire. I think of like the worst, like the most extreme thing ever, and I just thought about how I was gonna provide for myself, how was I gonna provide for Geordie, what was I gonna do for work, and all these thoughts came to my head, and so yeah, bro, that's I guess at the time now. All of a sudden I've picked up a camera.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, bro. So I just thought for myself, it'd be cool to look back at something in a couple of years' time, how resilient I am. And so I thought it'd be cool to document my injury and what I go through because I think a lot of fans or a lot of rugby league, a lot of rugby league fans love to see what athletes actually go through throughout their day, throughout their journey of being a professional athlete. And so for me, I was like, man, it would be cool to show them what I go through and what I feel. And so I started everything with the GoPro. I started documenting my journey with the GoPro, and that was pretty cool. And all the boys used to mock me at the time, but yeah, bro, it was just for fun. It was just for my eyes, and then I realized I was like, man, I think I'm pretty good at it. And then I started to get a lot more attraction from other people because a lot of people resonated with my story.
Other athletes?
Nah, it was more just like everyday people.
That's hectic.
Which was like the main part, like the main part of why I wanted to do it. Because I feel like when you can engage people that are not in the same environment, I think that's more powerful for me personally.
And it's all through storytelling too.
Yeah.
It's a part of your culture, right?
Yeah.
Growing up, telling stories, learning from stories as well. So one of the biggest things I take away from that moment, Nu, is that you've just been dealt with the worst possible news in terms of your career. You're never going to be able to do the thing you love and get paid for. But there's always a silver lining. And no matter how bad things get, there always is something to focus on that is going to be a positive thing. And you've turned that negative time into such a positive because not only is it a form of your income, but it's something you enjoy. And tell us about the first experience of when someone asked you to do a job for them.
Yeah, bro. So when I obviously I invested into a film course at the time when I got injured, and I thought, man, this is pretty cool. I love telling stories. I love telling my story, and I love how people can resonate with it and connect on the same levels with me. And that was cool. And so when I did my first job, bro, I didn't think much of it because I was like, man, no, I just do it for free because I love creating videos. Anyways, the gym that I did it for, they paid me, and I was like, man, this is pretty cool, you know. And for me, bro, I was always the cool guy in school where I was too cool for school, and I was trying to be one of those popular kids where I just thought, man, rugby league is gonna save me. But now as I've gotten older, rugby league only lasts for a certain amount of time. And so, bro, when I did the job, I was like, man, I can actually make some money off this. Anyways, bro, I started buying a laptop, bought a higher expensive camera. Geordie was like, because I know my girl. She's very, no, I wouldn't say tighter. She's very smart with her money, and she's like, are you sure you need to buy that? Like, are you sure it's going to be, you know, something that you're going to, you know, go further with after football? Like, you've got footy to focus on, especially with my injury, right? And I was like, yeah, but I feel like the camera sort of takes my mind away from my mental battles with my injury. And so that was cool, bro. I felt like, I look back now, camera and storytelling, video really saved me and was my sort of escape from my mental battles with my injury.
Yeah.
And I think that definitely freshened my mind up going into rugby league. So whenever I'd create videos and sit there on the laptop for hours, making stuff for businesses, I'd walk back into training, feeling fresh already, feeling excited
Yeah.
to train, feeling excited to bounce back from, obviously my injuries.
It's a new form of escape. So you've unlocked two things there. You've unlocked a new way of to financially provide, but you've unlocked a new way to escape in a healthy way, in a creative way.
Yeah. So while I was busy rehabbing my foot again and doing video stuff, I didn't have a contract going in for the next year. So I was still signed at the Bulldogs. Story short, they said, no, we're not going to sign you.
You can't blame them at this stage as well.
Yeah, you can't blame NRL clubs because of your injuries. Like, it's just unlucky, right? And obviously, you got to understand NRL as a business.
And the surgeon said you'll never play, and the trainer was there.
But I said to the Bulldogs, I go, if I find the surgeon that I want for my next operation, will that be okay? Will it be fine for you guys to pay for it? And they're like, that's fine, because I didn't want the guy that did my first two to do it again and stuff it up.
Yeah.
I looked at 5 different surgeons, and the one I did some research on lived in Melbourne, and that's just crazy, bro. Literally, when we went to Melbourne and got the surgery done, the day I got out of hospital and I got back into the hotel room in Melbourne, the Grand Prix in Australia closed because of COVID. So that day, COVID literally shut down everything. Literally the next day I got out of hospital.
March 24th or March 25th?
Something like that.
Yeah.
But then at that time, bro, the hospitals had to obviously close down the surgeries and all that. So
you were the last one.
I was lucky that I got in to get the surgery.
Let's just call it the last one in Melbourne to ever get that surgery. Well done.
But yeah, bro, yeah. And so I drove 8 hours to go there. Then I was lucky enough that Jordan and my other friend came over to help bring the car back while I was in the back seat.
Far out. It's a mission.
And so by then, bro, literally I had no contract. And then I said to my manager at the time, I was like, man, I just need someone to take a punt on me. Please. And he was like, he's like, man, no NRL team wants you here. Like, no one would want to pick you up after your 3 surgeries, because obviously it's like they've got your health records, right? And it's a big risk for a club to spend some money on me. So then I was like, man, anything overseas, the league below Super League called Featherston Rovers, they took me on board, and by then my foot was just coming right. And then I played all 30 games, didn't miss one game.
Wow.
Which was massive, bro. Yeah. But, bro, like, it was cool to document my journey there. The fans at Featherston were awesome, bro. They really, honestly, bro, if it wasn't for them giving me a shot, I don't think I would have been able to come back and play the NRL again.
Love that. So you played all 30 games, bro.
Yep.
And then you come back. Am I right to say this is where Roosters give you a training trial?
Yep. I remember Geordie saying to my manager, we just need to get something back home. Because she wants to go home, Like, for her, it was hard because she's living away from home too. But also at the time, we did, I think, 8 months long distance.
That's impressive.
Yeah. So when she came over and helped me come back home, she's like, we need Nu to get another contract at home. And then my manager was like, honestly, Nu can't really get anything here in the NRL, but he can sign to the New South Wales Cup team, the North Sydney Bears. North Sydney Bears have a affiliation with the Roosters. And then, bro, I was playing for North Sydney Bears and I wasn't really getting a run. And I was like, man, here I am. I've played NRL, played for Samoa, and I wasn't playing enough minutes. I wasn't playing full 80-minute games, and I was getting annoyed with it. And I was like, man, here I am. I know I'm better than some of the blokes that are playing in front of me. And then we versed the Tigers, the New South Wales Cup Tigers team. And the hooker in front of me got injured. He came off busted, and I played about 60 minutes. And I played really well against the Tigers. And at the time, Michael Maguire was coaching the Tigers. And it was weird. He called me the week after and said, "Hey, Nu, I see that you've been playing off the bench, and I saw the game against us in the cup, and this is while I was working with you guys,
Yeah.
you know."
Oh, I remember.
Yeah. And I remember Madge calling me and he goes, "Would you like to come and be full time with us?" And I was like, "What, full time?" Like, I didn't even care about playing NRL, but just training full time was like, man, this is a special moment. And I remember calling you guys, and I'm like, because I was doing work for you, and I was
Yeah.
like, bro, I don't know if I can be full time with Reborn again because I've got to go into full time. And bro, thank you for that too. Like, you actually gave me, you like, I was a bit scared telling you because I was thinking, nah, I know Trav needs content for his business, but that's my first thought. And then when I did say that to you, you're like, bro, 100% go F and do that right now.
Yeah, bro.
You know, I'm all for people achieving their dreams, especially when I've told you my story, my journey. You're like, bro, go for it. And I can't thank you enough, bro, for giving me that opportunity, but also to even come back to Reborn after.
How good was it?
Yeah, bro. And then I get to I'm training well and I'm playing really well in the New South Wales Cup, and I'm just grateful that I'm playing 80 minutes, you know,
Yeah.
each game. And then Madge calls me up and he goes, "No, we've got Magic round. I'm going to take you with us. I don't know if," he goes, "you're not going to play, but I just want you to experience and be amongst the boys." And I was like, "Oh, sweet. Like, all good, coach." Anyways, bro, like, that game, I'm on the sideline and I'm watching the game. They're versing some team, and two guys in front of me, Luke Brooks and Jacob. Oh no, not Jacob Little. One of the other hookers go down, and I was like, no way, two guys go down. And I was like, what's going to happen next week? I'm already thinking about the week after. And then, like, one of the boys that came to Magic Round with me, he was 19th, 20th man as well. He goes, "Bro, you might play next week." And I was like, nah, I'm not going to play, And then I'm back at Reborn the next week, right? And I'm working, and then I get a call, and Madge was like, "You're going to be playing." And I was buzzing, bro. And it was against the Bulldogs. Like,
Yeah.
And I was like, how cool is that?
I remember the game, bro.
How crazy is this going to be that I want to play against the team that obviously I had bad attitude at, and now I get to prove myself who I really am and who the real new is.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I was going to get to.
Yeah. And then I remember telling you guys, and everyone's buzzing, like the whole workplace is buzzing.
Yeah.
And then, bro, get to the game against the Bulldogs.
It was an up and down game.
It was at Leichhardt, yeah.
Yeah, and it was like it was swinging. It was kept swinging. Like, you know, you guys would score, they would score,
Yeah.
and then you can tell.
Yeah, bro. And then Jacob Little, good player too. He's at his peak at the moment. He got a head knock, a HIA, and he wasn't going to return. Bro, this was like the 30th minute in the game, and I was like, I've not played NRL in like, what was it, 3-4 years. And I was like, yeah, New South Wales Cup is like elite, but
This is
playing
quick.
NRL, it's a different level, bro. It's another level.
Yeah.
Story short, I score 2 tries,
I remember, bro.
which is mad, bro.
First one was like within like the first 5 minutes of you being on the
Yeah.
field, and the second one was like to put them in front to really to settle the game.
Yeah.
And I was with Ace. We were
Yeah.
awake for it, which if you guys know me, you know that's a lot for me to be awake for a night game. And we were going nuts. I was filming it. Ace is jumping up and down the bed. Chloe was yelling and screaming. Man, what a moment! That moment, knew. Was it better than your NRL debut?
Yeah, definitely, bro. Just because of everything that I've gone through, bro. Not just on the field, but off the field, and just the way to bounce back and the way to, you know, prove people wrong, but also show people the real me.
Yeah.
Because honestly, bro, I was a dickhead back in the day.
You and me are both, brother.
Yeah, bro. So played at the Tigers, and then they offered me 2 years to stay, and I was like, man. And this is when Madge got sacked, and I love Madge, man. Like, for what anyone says and what the experiences are, for me, my personal experience, because he gave me that opportunity, that was amazing. And then the Bulldogs offered me for 1 year, and I was like, man, I felt really confident then with my ability, so I thought I'd go back and play the Dogs. After 4 games, I dislocated my elbow against the Warriors.
Yeah, I remember, yucky.
very yucky.
You put me through some traumatic times now that I think about it.
Bro, rugby league's brutal,
It's
bro.
brutal.
Yeah. And then, story short, they wanted to go a different direction, and because they felt like they had a hooker lock utility sort of in place while I was injured. And then Newcastle was like, hey, look, we'll take you.
Yes, please.
Yeah, we need a utility off the bench, because this is when Jaden Brayley done his yeah,
His knee? It was his knee, right?
something. He done his Achilles, and then he
Yeah,
done his knee.
it was one of the two.
Yeah,
I spoke to him about that at your wedding,
Yeah,
actually.
poor fella.
Yeah.
Bro, for me, like, they call me the journeyman for a reason. I've never been the best player, bro, but I've always stuck with it.
Yeah. Bah, what about that moment, man?
Oh, I remember telling you this, bro. So,
Yeah.
like, I went back home with Geordie and my in-laws. This is when we're still boyfriend and girlfriend. Probably one of the highlights of my life, I guess. Not my career, my life. To see both cultures come together, but then also to share the news, finding out when I made the Kiwis. So we're at dinner with both sides of the family, and my dad, he's a proud Samoan, but also he loves the All Blacks, and he had a Samoan jacket on because at the time we've just finished the World Cup, and usually when I go home, I usually give all my gear to my dad, and it looks baggy on him because he's a little Samoan Asian man. And he's always wearing the Samoan gear, real proud. And anyways, I get this call from Michael Maguire, and I know at the time he's the Kiwis coach, because after he got sacked from Tigers, he's the Kiwis coach. And I was like, why is Madge calling me? And then I go outside, and Madge calls me, and he goes, "Nu, how would you like to play for the Kiwis?" And by this, and I was like, bro, I was buzzing, right? And this is one thing I wanted to clarify, because I got a lot of hate, I guess, on why I picked New Zealand over Samoa. So at this time, bro, Samoa didn't even indicate that they wanted me to be a part of the team. And this is like, bro, this is like 2-3 weeks before. Sorry, this is 2 weeks before the squad gets announced. And usually by then, you'd know probably a month.
Yeah.
Month and a half, sort of, if you're in or out. And so Samoa, by then, they were literally saying, oh, we don't know if you're in, but we don't know if you're not.
I remember this.
And so, but then here's Madge, and Madge goes, "Nu, how would you like to play for the Kiwis team?" He just told me straight up, because I had him at the Tigers. He goes, "You're going to play, all I know is you're going to be playing in our team." Obviously, they had a lot of injuries of hookers and all that. And I was like, man, this is crazy. And I said, oh, Madge, can I call you back? Because I need to ask my family and my dad, because my whole career up till then, I've represented Samoa because of my parents, and obviously that's who I am, and it's where my parents come from.
But you were born in New Zealand.
But I was born in New Zealand, and so I grew up watching the rugby union team, Manu Samoa, and the All Blacks, and so I was like, man, if I could play for either of these teams, it'd be an honor.
Yeah.
So for me to represent Samoa at the time was an honor. And I remember going back into the restaurant, and I said to my dad, would you care if I played for the Kiwis? And he goes, son, and he's not a man of many words because he's fresh. he's not a man of many words, but he had a Samoan jacket on. And he goes, son, and as soon as he said son, he unzips his Samoan jacket undone, and opens it up, and it's an All Blacks New Zealand polo shirt. And he goes, son, you've lived our dream. Now it's time for you to go live yours.
Oh. Goosebumps.
And I was, bro, and for me, bro, I didn't care what anyone else would say. The only person's, I guess, perspective I cared about was my father's, because obviously my mom isn't there. And so I was like, you know what? That's just made my decision a lot easier. It made me feel comfortable in who I am. And so, bro, because at the end of the day, when you listen to the outside noise, bro, like you just get caught up. You get caught up trying to,
Make everyone happy.
make everyone happy. And I was always that kind of person. I was always about being a people's pleaser. But on the inside, I was like, man, this is not me.
Yeah.
And so for the first time, bro, I was like, okay, I'm actually doing something for the little Noel Brown that moved over here when he was 16.
This, I say this because I think we're going to cry. But through all this, bro, we haven't touched on when your mum passed away. And I've seen the videos. They're beautiful of like when she was going through her last stages of life. What period of time was that?
I was so lucky. I was so grateful from Featherston Rovers that they gave me an opportunity to come back home and spend the last 3 months, which was the 3 months that my mum had left until she passed away. But those 3 months, bro, sort of literally molded me and made me find my identity back from me looking after my mum that time.
Because you became your mum's caretaker, didn't you? Because I've seen
Pretty much, yeah, bro. Yep.
Washing her, taking like brushing her hair.
Yeah. So, bro,
feeding
at
her.
the time, it was weird, bro, and thank God for my brothers. I remember we were on the call, and I'm not saying there's no right or wrong way, but at the time, I remember calling my brothers and I said, boys, I reckon we just put mum into like a care home, like what is it, one of those?
Yeah, like a nursing home.
Yeah, a nursing home, because I know we've all got kids and families, and I don't want it to set us back. And my brothers are like, bro, like, no, you will realize after how much of an honor it is. And I was like, no, it's gonna sit. Like in my head, I was just being like this stubborn kid. I was like, no, trust me, it's just easier having someone that knows how to professionally take care of them. And then my brothers are like, bro, it's all good. We'll just find a way. We just wing it. Anyways, bro. So me and my four brothers, we find a way, bro. We end up being carers for my mum, and obviously, lucky enough from the England team, they gave me the time to be 3 months, to spend 3 months with my mum. So that whole time, bro, I literally washed her, changed her, and saw every vulnerable part of a woman's body, which is like very for us. For I guess for any culture, we don't realize, but in our culture, a woman's body is very sacred, and so for us, for me and my brothers to see my mum with no clothes on was like massive. It was a big like, holy heck, like you're gonna take, you are the carer you are, because when you see. When you see your mum raise you and feed you and wash you, bath you, you do all those things. Now, the roles have changed.
Reversed.
You know, when the roles are changed and you're being the carer to your mum, it's like a different feeling. It was very emotional, and so, yeah, bro, I was so honoured, and still to this day, bro, that and my wedding day is definitely the greatest achievements of my life, and I can't. I've won a lot of things. Like I've won a lot of things. I've achieved a lot of things in life, but looking after my mum and getting married to the woman of my dreams, bro, is definitely the biggest highlight of my life.
Wow, and that's a perfect segue because you're also going to win with the Kiwis too.
Yeah.
So it trumps that. What a moment that was, bro. Remember that photo of you right at the front?
That's crazy, bro. And I remember sitting there in front of the TV. In a state house, and I was like, man, imagine me being one of those boys, being one of them. And next minute, bro,
There you are.
there I was beating Aussie.
So you play out Dragons, bro. That's up until now. So, what is next for your football career?
Yeah, so I haven't really announced it publicly.
Exclusive.
So that'll be cool. So I've announced that I'm retiring from rugby league. I'm content with my decision. I've had a lot of thought. I've had good mentors around me to talk about my decision, and I think it's time for me to retire. But also, it's not this ain't the end of New Brown. And I feel like with people that follow me on socials and all that, they know it's not just about rugby league. I feel like, and I hope that I've come across on my platforms that it's just more than sport, that it's there's more to life than your career or your job, I should say. And so for me now, I'm going through that transition phase, and I'm excited to see what's next. Obviously, I'm working at Reborn now, and doing a part-time thing, and the owner of Reborn's trying to get me full-time.
This is so true. I'll give him whatever he wants.
He's trying to get me full-time, but yeah, I'm doing really well, and that's the thing that I want to be able to tell and show people, especially that are in the game, is that because to play at the most elite level and to be in the top 1% of rugby league, you have to sacrifice everything. You have to put all your eggs in one basket to get to the top. But I feel like for me now, and I'm lucky that video come across a time where I was going through my trials of injuries, but you need something to fall back on. Because if you do have a serious injury or something doesn't go to plan, you need something to fall back on. And so I'm so blessed and I'm so lucky that God's given me a gift through my trials of video and storytelling.
Well, on that note, brother, I want to say congratulations on one hell of an NRL career plus Super League career. You got that one in there. Thank you for making me buy 400 different jerseys for my son who loves and adores you. But I want to thank you for being Farmer New Brown, because many people see you and see you as this beautiful human being, and yet they don't understand the story of how you've got to where you've been. You've had to go through your upbringing. You've had to go through your own personal hard times and learn from your mistakes and fail over and over again. Get up, keep going, grind. After every single part of your NRL career, you kept going. And that's a message to anyone out there trying to do anything in any career, that it doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down. If you're willing to keep getting up, you'll eventually get to the goal the year after. So congratulations, brother.
Thanks, Ray.
Thank you for coming on. Let's go.
Brother. Love you.
Love you.